délégation et surtout à son Excellence, Monsieur le Ministre, que nous avons été saisis par quelques cas individuels qui nous ont été signalés. Alors je voudrais avoir confirmation ou affirmation, parce que ce sont différentes sources qui nous ont saisis. Alors le cas de Monsieur Daniel Gadjadoum, collaborateur du journal Tribune Info, qui aurait été enlevé en plein jour le 26 février 2017 par les agents de l'ANS. Également, les activistes Nadjo Kaina, Dig Manael Nelly Versinis et Solo Bertrand, qui ont été enlevés également par l'ANS et détenus au secret les 6, 11 et 15 avril 2017. Il y a également le cas de M. Maondoé Décladoré, qui aurait été également enlevé et détenu au secret jusqu'au 30 mai 2017 avant d'être présenté au procureur qui l'a inculpé pour trouble à l'ordre public. Enfin, le cas de Boulga David, qui a été arrêté par le chef d'antenne de l'ANS du 4e arrondissement menotté. C'était le 29 mai 2017. Je tiens également à signaler que le 19 juin 2019, le tribunal correctionnel de N'Djamena avait condamné à 5 ans d'emprisonnement ferme un commissaire de police et 2 de ses complices ayant torturé à mort 2 personnes en garde à vue dans un commissariat. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hatem, for that succinct presentation. Commissioner Lawrence Mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Like my colleagues, Chair, let me begin by welcoming the distinguished delegation of Chad to this interactive dialogue between ourselves and the delegation. Now, I'm the Special Rapporteur on freedom of expression and access to information in Africa, and my interactions with the delegation will be on Article 9 of the African Charter, which guarantees everybody the right to freedom of expression and access to information. Honorable Minister, let me begin by welcoming the information in your periodic report that Article 27 of the Constitution of Chad domesticates Article 9 of the African Charter, and that you have enacted multiple laws to enable Article 9 of the Charter. I think clearly it seems to me that over and above enacting laws, you still have huge implementational challenges. In fact, your paragraph 127 of the report states that in terms of press freedom, Chad is ranked by Reporters Without Borders 127th out of 180, and that was in 2016. So that's what your report says. I have just been checking, and I see that presently Chad is ranked number 122 out again of 180 in the 2019 report, which you had cited for the previous year. I guess clearly the ranking is improving, but extremely gradually, extremely slowly. So I guess really the fundamental question with which I would be interested in is why do you think that your ranking perhaps is not as high as it should be? And why is it that in respect of freedom of expression, perhaps you're not doing as well as you could? Now, in respect of criminal defamation, I want to cite our resolution 169 on repealing criminal defamation laws in Africa, which calls on states parties to repeal criminal defamation laws or insult laws which impede freedom of speech. I think your paragraph 121 of the report refers to Article 46 of the Act number, I think it's 17 of the stated year in that paragraph, which I think still has legislation on criminal defamation. And indeed, it is a case that journalists in charge continue journalists in Chad continue to be charged with criminal defamation. And I think we have instances where that has happened. For example, I think in respect of the publisher of the Arabic newspaper, N'Djamena Al-Jadida. So again, the question which we wish to engage with you, Minister, and your delegation is whether indeed Chad intends to not only decriminalize defamation but also enforce that decriminalization. Now, in respect of safety of journalists, again, our principle, I think it's principle 11 of the Declaration on Principles of Freedom of Expression urges that states are obligated to take effective measures to prevent attacks on journalists. The question which I would wish to ask in this regard is what steps the government and Chad is taking to ensure that journalists are not attacked, are not killed because of their work, and that where this happens, then there's punishment of those who do it. Now, I then wish to address the question of media freedom, and I take note that in 2008, the High Council of Communication, which is Chad's regulated body, banned reporting on the activities of rebels and any other information that could harm national unity. I'm wondering, whether that is still in force and the basis for it. Now, on access to information, Minister, I note that Chad does not have access to information legislation. Indeed, in your report, you note that at some point, the President had to instruct government departments to provide information to journalists. Again, so therefore, recalling that the Commission has its model law on access to information, on the basis of which we urge all states to establish specific information law. What is it that you're doing so that actually can come to happen, that the country will have access to information legislation? Finally, in respect of the question of internet and social media, I'm sure, Minister, you are aware, because this is something on which I have engaged Chad about. We have raised concerns that during the period March 2018 to July 2019, Chad did shut down social media platforms, such as WhatsApp, such as Twitter. They could not operate, as usual. We'd be interested to know why this was the case, because we really encourage states that there can be other ways of dealing with any problems that may arise in respect of internet and social media, and that shutting those platforms down is not the best approach. So again, we'd wish to hear an explanation on why this was the case, and hopefully assurances that this will not happen in the future. Thank you very much, and again, welcoming the delegation to this dialogue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Mute, also for your timely finalization of your intervention. Commissioner Manuela, you have the floor. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Sr. Presidente. Boa tarde a todos. Uma boa tarde especial à delegação do Chad, que vem a esta sessão apresentar o seu relatório. Reconheço, e aliás todos os colegas que me antecederam, reconhecem os desenvolvimentos sobre a implementação da Carta Africana no Chad. Porém, gostaria que também se fizesse menção ao que foi feito efetivamente em cada um dos articulados, tal como estipulam as diretrizes da Comissão Africana sobre elaboração de relatórios. Neste particular, Estou grata por saber das formações levadas a cabo por atores da polícia da área judiciária, incluindo agentes penitenciários, como consta da vossa página 29 do relatório, na versão portuguesa que eu tenho, bem como o que foi dito no vosso discurso de apresentação. Reparo, porém, que no relatório quase que não foi trazido nada em relação ao artigo 6º da Carta Africana. Então, solicitamos que o Sr. Ministro nos forneça, pode ser agora ou depois, algumas respostas em relação às questões que vou colocar a seguir. Não temos quaisquer dados estatísticos sobre estabelecimentos prisionais no geral. E essa informação gostaria que viesse, portanto, por dados desagregados. Cadeias, locais de detenção para homens, mulheres e jovens em conflito com a lei. E as respectivas capacidades. A taxa da ocupação das mesmas, se for possível. Se houver alguma superlotação, que medidas estão sendo tomadas para resolver esse problema da superlotação? Porque sabemos que a superlotação constitui uma das formas de tortura. Gostaríamos também de ter dados desagregados acerca do corpo da guarda prisional, portanto, do serviço penitenciário. Homens, mulheres, sua formação e, principalmente, sua formação específica em direitos humanos. Há dados públicos de que, aliás, na página a que me referi, que houve uma formação de um total de 251 agentes penitenciários. É o número total no país? Penso que não. Também gostaria de obter algumas informações sobre os direitos dos reclusos. Mais concretamente no que diz respeito ao direito à alimentação, quanto às refeições diárias, como é que são compostas, e se a família pode contribuir de alguma forma para essas refeições. O direito à saúde, existência de serviços médicos e medicamentosos nas instalações prisionais, o tratamento dispensado aos presos que padecem de doenças crônicas ou transmissíveis, também dados sobre água e saneamento básico nos estabelecimentos prisionais. Direito à educação, formação escolar e formação profissional, direito à recreação, visitas, o tempo de visitas, se há ou não há visitas conjugais e a possibilidade dos presos telefonarem para os seus parentes. Outro aspecto que gostaria de ver realçado é se a sociedade civil pode visitar os locais de detenção e quais são as condições. Gostaria de ter informações se o Tchad tem penas alternativas às prisões e se efetivamente os tribunais usam essas penas alternativas para descongestionar as cadeias. Gostaria também de ter uma informação se esse despacho número 32 PR 2011 sobre o regime penitenciário está de acordo com as diretrizes de Luanda. O despacho é de 2011 e as diretrizes de Luanda são de 2014. Sobre as forças policiais, forças da ordem e segurança, não há qualquer informação. Nós não queremos quebrar o sigilo do Estado sobre esses aspectos, mas pelo menos dizer-nos se a ratio entre polícia e população tchadiana é satisfatória. Há algum mecanismo independente para auditar ou supervisionar a atividade da polícia? Os membros da sociedade civil estão integrados nesse mecanismo? Madame Caetese ontem já se referiu à assistência judiciária. Então, o que quero perguntar é se ela está instituída por lei, se há uma lei sobre assistência judiciária ou ela é discricionária, o juiz pode usar ou não quando quiser. Em caso de flagrante delito de algum cidadão, qual é o mecanismo de alguma prisão ilegal de algum cidadão, qual é o mecanismo que existe para a sua indemnização? As leis tchadianas prevêem esse mecanismo? Ontem também já foi referenciado a questão relacionada com presos no corredor da morte. Monsieur Yang ontem também referiu-se ao número de pessoas que aguardam julgamento. Por quê? Porque as sessões são feitas uma vez por mês ou uma vez por ano, de acordo com o vosso relatório. Isto não leva à superlotação de cadeias? Senhor Presidente, são estas as questões que eu tinha em relação ao Tchad. Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Manuela. I also commend your timing. Commissioner King, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And I also want to join in welcoming you, the delegation, and congratulating you for fulfilling your reporting obligation. I note with satisfaction that in your report you stated that in the compilation of your report, you compiled the report in accordance with the Commission's state reporting guidelines for economic, social, and cultural rights, and I want to commend you for that. And I note the efforts you have made to promote and fulfill economic, social, and cultural rights in terms of addressing food insecurity and improving the conditions of the population, the provision of safe drinking water. However, throughout your report, you have indicated that poverty remains a challenge for the population of Chad. And so I will be engaging you on economic, social, and cultural rights, Article 14, the rights to property. I'd like to know what legislative and other measures that you have taken to ensure peaceful enjoyment of the rights to property. I would like to know the laws that govern the terms and conditions for the acquisition, nationalization, or expropriation of property in Chad in a manner that is transparent and in the public interest. I would also like to know the measures you have taken to ensure that members of vulnerable and disadvantaged groups, including indigenous populations, have access to and the use of land and the right to reclaim their ancestral rights. At paragraph 252 of the English version of the report, you mentioned that the Land and Housing Development Company was established, and it has since 2010, and it has identified for the construction of social housing units in Tukra. I want to know whether, because since this organization was established in 2010, have these housing units been built? Therefore, primarily civil servants. And you also noted that there are plans by 2030 for more construction of housing units. What are the plans in terms of who would have access to these housing units? Would they now be for the general population? Do you have a plan on how these housing units would be allocated to the general population? In paragraph 72 and 73, you refer to the draft code of persons and the family guaranteeing gender equality in ownership of property through inheritance, and that this code has been contested by the Muslim community. Could you give us the current status of this draft code and the steps that you have taken to foster its adoption? On Article 15, the right to work, would like to know the measures that you have taken, legislative and administrative, to ensure the right of everyone to equitable and satisfactory conditions of work, including safe and hygienic working conditions, equal pay for equal work, rest, leisure, and reasonable limitation of working hours, periodic holidays with pay, and all the terms for employees. We would also like you to tell us what measures you have taken, legislative, administrative, or otherwise, to ensure equality and non-discrimination in access to decent work and promotion without discrimination of any kind to members of vulnerable and disadvantaged groups. Apart from the establishment of the National Office for the Promotion of Employment, could you let us know the policies, strategies, and measures put in place to curb unemployment, including youth unemployment? And in paragraph 166, the report states that the minimum wage for private sector workers has been raised to 60,000 CFA since 2011. Is this minimum wage for the public service employees in Chad? Is this the minimum wage for public service employees, and how much is it? Whether in practice this minimum wage rule is implemented across the board and for everyone. I'll now engage you on Article 16, the right to health. Could you indicate if the healthcare system of Chad comprehensively covers all, including vulnerable groups, to ensure that they are not discriminated against in public, private healthcare facilities? Does the provision of healthcare facilities in Chad cover mental health care? And could you give us information about the measures taken to provide health care and health service to the 78.1% of the rural population in Chad, particularly women and children? There's insufficient information in the report on the emergency healthcare system. And can you briefly tell us the policies in place to deal with emergency cases and how the government coordinates quick and adequate response to emergency cases, including victims of trauma resulting from accidents, to ensure their timely treatment and prevention of deaths? On the right to education, we note your 10-year plan for education, but we'd like to know what are the current data on literacy rates, especially for girls and women. And could you let us know what steps you have taken to ensure that all children, including those belonging to vulnerable groups, enjoy equal access to the educational system, and what steps have been taken to ensure gender equality at all levels of education? The Commission also notes that private actors have become important players in the provision of education in many of our African countries. We now have private actors taking the lead in provision of education. Could you let us know how you regulate the activities of private actors in this area to ensure that the quality of education is not undermined? Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner King, and also for your timing. I now would like, in the light of the time that we have saved and in the light of yesterday's request from Commissioner Young, to come back in respect of a couple of points. Commissioner Young, you may ask your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Without much ado, in fact, I had one question which I had reserved yesterday. Now, it concerns the composition of the High Court of Justice, which is mentioned at paragraph 58 of your report. Now, that High Court of Justice is composed of 15 members, and it is responsible to hear cases involving high officials, including the President of the Republic. There are 10 members of the National Assembly, 2 from the Constitutional Council, and only 3 members of the Supreme Court. I was just wondering whether the appellation High Court of Justice would not be a misnomer, considering the few number of judges on that High Court of Justice. And my question now is, how is that High Court of Justice seized of a case? And can that court bear the stamp of impartiality in the sense that, you know, the composition itself makes it, let's say, outside the remit of the control of the judiciary as such? That's one question which I had. And another question, now, it concerns what you qualify as the weight of customary practice in your country. This is mentioned at page 370. More particularly, I want to have information on levirate marriage. Now, the state deplores the continuance of levirate marriage. So the question is, can something be done? Is something being done about banning levirate marriage? Now, the whole point is that a widow, after the demise of the husband, is supposed to marry, the brother of the husband. Now, without ensuring that there is consent on her part.
Because that traditionally is how it's done.
Commissioner Yoon, if you conclude, please.
Yeah. No, I simply wish to say, you know, that case, same situation came from Benin a few years back. And I know that in Benin, they banned the levirate marriage, with the rider that the Minister of Justice, upon good cause shown, can give a dispensation. I wonder whether Chad can adopt the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, merci beaucoup. Je vais tâcher d'être assez bref. Comme pour les autres commissaires, je voudrais remercier Son Excellence, Monsieur le Ministre Jimé Tarabi, garde des Sceaux, ministre de la Justice et ministre en charge des droits de l'homme en République du Tchad. Mes questions, je ne vous les poserai pas comme chair, mais je les poserai comme rapporteur spécial en charge des défenseurs des droits de l'homme, comme le commissaire ayant en charge au sein de la le début, c'est-à-dire votre mise à jour orale, donc le texte que vous avez présenté hier, lu hier, vous aviez indiqué que ce rapport est participatif, ce qui est la norme au niveau de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme, dans la mesure où non seulement vous y aviez, dans le cadre du comité interministériel tchadien, associé la société civile, ainsi que le bureau du Haut Commissariat des Nations Unies aux droits de l'homme. Tout de suite, ceci laisse paraître qu'il n'y a pas encore d'institution nationale des droits de l'homme, de commission nationale des droits de l'homme au Tchad. Alors je souhaite demander à Son Excellence, Monsieur le Ministre, garde des Sceaux, quand est-ce que le gouvernement tchadien envisage de doter le pays de cette structure importante qui participe au niveau national à l'équilibre dans la gestion des droits fondamentaux, mais qui constitue également un partenaire efficace pour la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples dans le domaine de la promotion et de la protection des droits de l'homme. C'est la première préoccupation, j'en aurai 4, il reste 3. Je souhaiterais en seconde position que l'honorable délégation puisse indiquer si le Tchad envisage également l'adoption d'une législation spéciale qui protégera les défenseurs des droits de l'homme, parce que comme vous le savez, la norme aujourd'hui, c'est que nous demandons aux États, conformément à la soft law des Nations Unies et conformément aux résolutions de la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples, la norme aujourd'hui, c'est de demander aux États de voter une législation qui protège les défenseurs des droits de l'homme, et particulièrement les défenseurs des droits de l'homme les plus vulnérables, comme les femmes, ceux qui travaillent, les journalistes. On vous a parlé tout à l'heure des journalistes par le commissaire Moutet, ceux qui travaillent dans le cadre du droit de l'environnement, qui sont également menacés dans la plupart du temps. Quand est-ce que vous envisagez l'adoption de pareilles lois? Je vous rappelle que 3 pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest sont déjà sur cette voie. Il s'agit de la Côte d'Ivoire, du Mali et du Burkina Faso. Troisième question, troisième préoccupation, la Commission a pu constater la création au sein du ministère en charge des droits humains d'une direction de la communication, de la vulgarisation, de l'accès aux droits et à la justice, alors qui œuvre à l'amélioration de l'environnement juridique favorable aux organisations de la société civile. Vous dites que ce ministère travaille pour l'amélioration de l'environnement juridique favorable aux organisations de la société civile. Je souhaite demander à l'honorable délégation de nous fournir des informations détaillées sur le rôle et la mission de cette direction au sein du ministère. Qu'est-ce qu'elle apporte comme plus-value par rapport à la situation ancienne et par rapport à l'absence, par exemple, d'une commission nationale des droits de l'homme. Qu'est-ce qu'elle vous apporte en plus? Si vous pouvez nous donner des éléments là-dessus. Quatrième préoccupation, la Commission africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples a été informée des restrictions apportées au régime de la liberté d'association par la modification de l'ordonnance 023/PR/2018 du 27 juin 2018 suite à l'adoption d'une nouvelle constitution le 30 avril 2018. Est-ce que l'honorable délégation pourrait indiquer les mesures que l'État compte prendre afin de s'assurer que la mise en œuvre de cette ordonnance ne porte pas atteinte aux dispositions de la Charte africaine? Voilà, Monsieur le Président, les 4 petites préoccupations que je voulais, n'est-ce pas, adresser à l'endroit de l'honorable délégation du Tchad. J'ai dit et je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. I would also like to have this interactive dialogue with the delegation of Chad in my capacity as the chairperson of the working group on extractive industries, environment and human rights. This would be in relation to Articles 21 and 24 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the right of peoples to natural resources and wealth, and also on the right to environment. First of all, I would like to commend the delegation of Chad for providing information in relation to both Article 21 and Article 24 of the African Charter. The reason for me for saying this is that often in state reports we don't get to have the information needed in relation to these provisions, and when we do, it's not necessarily fit for those articles. So we very much commend this one. Now, in terms of the questions that I would like to ask, as you are aware, the African Commission has adopted a state reporting guidelines on Articles 21 and 24 of the African Charter, and I would like to know if the Chadian delegation had an opportunity to consult with the state reporting guidelines of the Commission on Articles 21 and 24 of the African Charter. Second, I would also wish to know, in terms of the processes for granting licenses to extractive industries in the oil and gas sector or in the mining sector, whether there is a legal requirement and a legal avenue that guarantees the participation of affected people in the process of the granting of licenses, whether there is a requirement of law for undertaking environmental risk assessment, for undertaking social risk assessment, as well as human rights assessment when licenses are granted to extractive industries. I think this is among the issues that we would like to cover in relation to extractive industries. I would also like, in the report, you have indicated that oil and petroleum exploitation is Chad's primary source of public revenue. And given that, the fluctuation of markets would have a very negative impact on the economy and thereby on the provision of social services affecting human rights, what efforts are being put by Chad to diversify the sources of and the structure of its economy in order to avoid the risks of volatility of the oil market. And also if Chad can also additionally provide us with information on the existence of whether it hosts other extractive industries, particularly engaging in mining of minerals, beyond the oil and gas sector, and the percentage of contribution of these other areas of extractive industries to the GDP. It's indicated that there is a scheme under the Chadian legal system that gives 5% of the revenue to the regions from where oil or mineral is extracted. This is also an important legal framework which this Commission commends. However, deficiencies can still be noted in the mobilization of tax revenues, and of course there are issues that have been highlighted from information in the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative on the weaknesses of this regulatory framework on the provision of 5% of revenue to the source of origin. So if you provide us the effectiveness of the distribution of the 5% revenue to the regions. I would also like you to provide information in relation to Article 21.2 of the African Charter, which concerns expropriation of land. And in that respect, can you provide us information on what the legal regime in Chad is in relation to expropriation of land for extractive industries purposes, and whether consultations for affected people and adequate compensation is provided. In relation to Article 24, I also recognize the information that you have provided, including, most importantly, the fact that Chad has laws that impose sanctions on extractive industries that pollute the environment. And you have given an example, I commend you for that, an example of a sanction that was imposed on a Chinese oil company, CNPCI, and a payment that has been made to Chad. And it indicates, your report in paragraph 351 indicates that the pollution was serious. So I would like you to indicate to us whether this pollution had resulted in any health or life-threatening damage to people living around in that area, and how people living in that area have been affected generally. Apart from the compensation or the penalty that has been paid, whether Chad has initiated any process for rehabilitation of the polluted environment, and whether Chad also is initiating a process for providing compensation for people who have been affected as a result of this serious pollution incident. Thank you very much again for the delegation of Chad. As I conclude, I thought it would be good for me on behalf of the Commission to also acknowledge and express our deep gratitude to Commissioner Aswagbo, who is among the members of the Commission who would be departing this Commission as well. Commissioner Aswagbo has served in various capacities in this Commission for a number of years with distinction, and she has a very witty mind and among the best legal minds on the continent who have particularly been leading the communications procedure of this Commission as chair of the Working Group on Communications. She has been a mother figure for me personally, and also a very passionate and compassionate member of the Commission. Commissioner Aswagbo, we very much thank you, and we can't express with enough words our appreciation for the service that you have rendered to this Commission and to the continent. Thank you very much. I now would like to give the floor to Commissioner Kaitese for concluding this round of the review of Chad's report. Commissioner Kaitese, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Voilà, on est à la fin de la séance des questions des commissaires. Et en principe, lorsque nous avons terminé de poser, lorsque nous venons de terminer de poser les questions, il revient à l'État de nous dire si il est possible de répondre tout de suite, comme on avait commencé la présentation de ce rapport hier, ou bien si vous avez besoin d'assez de temps pour préparer les réponses et revenir après pour répondre à la commission. Et
just before that, I think we have scheduled the response for 16:30. So the response from the delegation of Chad in our agenda is for 16:30. Now is the time for receiving the state report of Zimbabwe. So if you look at the agenda for today, it is at 4:30 that the delegation of Chad would provide us with response for the questions that we asked. From 2 until 4:30, we receive the state report of Zimbabwe. So that is the program. So we expect the delegation of Chad to provide us with response by 4:30 this afternoon. They have been informed yesterday. We have communicated with the delegation yesterday. But I agree with you that perhaps as we conclude, if there is anything else that the delegation of Chad and the head of delegation, the minister would like to say, I give you, Minister, 2 minutes. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, distingué président, distingué commissaire. Notre délégation n'a pas d'objection par rapport au calendrier et à l'agenda. Nous sommes disposés et entièrement à la disposition de la commission. Je voudrais simplement apporter la précision selon laquelle le ministre est empêché et il me revient à moi donc de conduire la délégation en ma qualité d'ambassadeur représentant permanent du Tchad à Genève. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Please join me in thanking the delegation of Chad once again until we have them back at 4:30. Thank you very much again.